Looking through the comment section on the power rankings this week, it's clear that there's an obvious solution to the problem. Number 31 next week will be Detroit, because Detroit fans are okay with that, and everybody else will be number 1. So we can all bask in the glow of being number 1 for a week. Everybody. All right. That being said, and honestly, I get a real kick out of it when people look for all this bias that's in there. It's not there. I tell people, and I say this again, I update it every single day, which means the power rankings right now are not the same as they were at this time last night. I update it every day. So they did, well, you're not tracking this. Well, clearly you're not watching this. I track it every day, and I watch every single game. All of them. So there's no deep, dark secrets in the NHL for me. And there's different criteria I use, whether I move a team up, move a team down, or leave them right where they are. And some teams stayed where they were tonight. That being said, like I said, I get a kick out of it. So I did the one video this morning, and then I did some tidying up in here. Not that you can tell. And I did some tidying up in here, and then there was hockey all day, so I did my treadmill first, and then I watched hockey all day, starting with Winnipeg in against St. Louis. The St. Louis Blues are the best team in the league. They are. And now they're at 8 games in a row that they've won. This has been quite the streak for them. It's almost a month since they've tasted defeat now. The Jets were 6-1 in matinees coming into today, but as I said, the Blues had won 7 in a row. Early pressure was put on by the Blues. Solid defense by both teams in the first half of that period, and Binnington with a great save at 10:56. Honestly, Binnington had a really, really good game today. Perron would score from O'Reilly and Pietrangelo at 14-18. There's an asterisk next to that, because at the time I'm recording this even, at the very least, the app was still showing that it was O'Reilly's goal, even though you could see it went off Perron's stick. So I don't know why it still said O'Reilly, but whatever. I'm giving it to Perron, because it's going to go to Perron. Late Jets power play then took place. There was posts, crossbars for that power play. The Jets couldn't score. It's 1-0 after 1. Second period. Strong start for the Jets, and they're rewarded. Shore scores his second as a member of the Winnipeg Jets from Shaw and Harkins. And Harkins has been useful for them, getting on the board. 5 minutes and 40 seconds in, that ties it up. Hellebuck then robbed Pietrangelo. And it was a solid game for Nick Ehlers again. This is kind of what I'm talking about, where Nick Ehlers, even when he's not on the scoreboard, and he wasn't today, thought he had a really good game. Good energy player. And even when he's not scoring, he's still useful out there. Barbashev then had a chance that went high, but not too long after that. Jaden Schwartz scores from Kyrou and Shen at 15:09. It was 2-1. The Jets get another late power play. And Scheifele hit a post, and then there was a scrum. So if you battle for the puck after you get your shot, then there's going to be a scrum because guys don't like you touching their goalie. So it's 2-1 St. Louis after 2 periods. Going into the third, the Jets killed an early penalty. Hellebuck denied Sundqvist, and the Blues pressure drew a penalty. Now on that penalty, they scored. Thomas scores the power play marker from Dunn and Kyrou at 7:06. So those are Kyrou's first 2 assists of the year. I thought he played well. The one thing that kept emerging, though, is how many shots Bortuzzo was blocking. And not only that, but the strength of those shots. Patrick Laine-level shots. When you're blocking those shots, man, you are brave. I've pointed out before that I think there's twice this year where somebody's got a bone broken from blocking a shot from Laine. So it's not just shot blocks. So the Jets got a power play late. They pulled the goalie, and Jaden Schwartz would add the empty netter at 19 minutes and 30 seconds. So they tried. It was a good effort for Winnipeg. They had played a pretty good game, but they lose 4-1 against the St. Louis Blues. So Hellebuck saves 24 out of 27 in the loss. Binnington saved 25 out of 26 in the win. Your 3 stars are Pietrangelo, Binnington, and Bortuzzo. I mentioned Bortuzzo earlier because I know people are going to look at him being in the 3 stars and go, why? And that's why, because he blocked some shots fearlessly, and it made a big difference. Power plays, Winnipeg goes 0 for 3. The Blues go 1 for 2. The shots, 7-7 in the first, 11-7 Jets in the second, 14-8 St. Louis in the third. Final shots, 28-26 in favor of the Blues. Pretty solid all-around game for St. Louis. All right, moving along. And New Jersey. Yeah, the Devils. And I thought, I could wear New Jersey tonight, but then I realized this is Vancouver's last game of 2019, so here it is. Duclair looked early like he wanted more goals. Like, all right, I'm going to get more goals. It's my time. It's my year. I got to strike while the iron's hot. He didn't get a goal tonight, but he did get on the scoreboard. Hayden and England then had a fight, one that was initiated by Hayden, so he takes the 2-minute instigator and a 10-minute misconduct. The Devils, however, ended up getting a power play. Hischier would score on that power play from Vatanen and Severson at 8:58. Hischier is heating up for the New Jersey Devils. That made it 1-0. The Senators get a power play, but right, Ottawa's power play sucks. The Devils got their second power play. The Senators then got their second, and it sucks. And I put that right up on the board because I was watching him like, yeah, no, it's back. Second period, the Devils were carrying most of the play. The Sens had their third power play of the game, and it sucked. But after it was over, Paul gets a goal from Duclair and Golubev at 8:39, so that's Golubev's first assist of the year. And when they showed the lineup card before the game, and I'm looking at the lineup for Ottawa, and I'm going, how in the world does this team win games and stay in games? I don't understand how with that blue line core, I don't understand it. Because Golubev was listed as being on the top pairing, and I'm like, that's mind-blowing. Anisimov would score from England and White at 13:28. Because England and Jaros were out there as well as a tandem. This is not a fantastic blue line, and yet they're up 2-1 because Ottawa outworks everybody. This is the wonderful thing about the Ottawa Senators. They just outwork everybody. There was a delay of game that got the Devils the power play. Then they end up with an extended 5-on-3. Borowiecki saved a certain goal, but not long after that, one goes in during the 5-on-3. Gusev from Vatanen and Hughes at 15:12, so Jack Hughes on the board. Wood would then score from Simmons 2 minutes and about 40 seconds later at 18 minutes exactly. That makes it 3-2, and it kind of took the wind out of the sails of the Ottawa Senators. Third period, the shots were 10-1 for New Jersey at 9 minutes. So Ottawa not really pushing back until they did. Chabot scores from Pajot at 15:02, and suddenly it's tied. Then there was a play where Hischier crashed into the net. It looked kind of scary. It looked like he rung his bell a little bit. But we go into overtime, and in the overtime, Hughes with the overtime winner. Yes, that Hughes, Jack Hughes, gets the overtime winner from Palmieri and Vatanen at 54 seconds. That was the first shot of overtime, and it's the one that counts. So New Jersey goes into Ottawa and wins at 4-3 in overtime. New Jersey continues to win their share of games. Blackwood, 20 saves on 23 shots. Anderson, 30 saves on 34 shots. Your 3 stars, Hughes, Chabot, and Vatanen. Power plays, New Jersey goes 2 for 4, and Ottawa goes 0 for 3 because it sucks. And I say that with all affection, and I say that every time because I don't want people to come in and go, wow, does he ever diss Ottawa? No. It's with genuine affection that I say that about Ottawa's power play. This is a team that works really hard. Shots were 14-6 in the first in favor of New Jersey, 10-9 Ottawa in the second, 10-7 New Jersey in the third. Overtime, they got the only shot. Final shots 34-23 in favor of the New Jersey Devils. So New Jersey goes in and wins a game, and for Ottawa, they get a point out of it. So with the overtime loss point, they still stay ahead of New Jersey and within shouting distance of a playoff spot. I mean, it's a pretty loud shout. They have to get to that playoff spot, but it's still technically there. Next up, Chicago. Speaking of teams keeping themselves within shouting distance, the Chicago Blackhawks. And this was a game that looked like it was going to be all Columbus. Early power play for them. They didn't get shots on that power play. However, Riley Nash would score from Gavrikov and Savard at 6:54. And that's always nice to see Riley Nash with the goal. The Hawks got a power play. They got another power play shortly after that. They wouldn't score on those. However, Dubois would score for Columbus shortly after. Had to pause for a sneezing fit. All right, so Dubois would score from Foligno at 18 minutes and 40 seconds left. So with 1:20 left in the first, it's 2-0 Columbus. And with the way Columbus was playing, it looked like that was probably going to be it. Second period, early pressure by Columbus. Leonard stopped Wenberg. Leonard played very, very well today. Doesn't get a 3-star selection, but he played very well. Korpisalo denied Boquist. Boquist had a great chance. It was denied. Columbus gets a power play with 6 minutes left. It wouldn't score, but going into the third period, it's 2-0 Columbus. So that's it, right? Chicago has an ability to come back, and it showed up tonight. First, it's Strome from Murphy and DeBrincat at 7 minutes and 33 seconds. As DeBrincat had chances tonight, just couldn't get one in the net. There was a 4-on-4 play at around the 9-minute mark. Columbus, at this stage in the game, had allowed 18 shots, and they blocked 18 shots. So Chicago was very frustrated by the shot blocking going on out there. The Hawks got a power play. They didn't score on that, but then they got their fourth power play. And what have I said about power plays? If you give any power play enough chances, they will eventually succeed. And that's the case here as Gustafsson scores from Keith and Kubalik at 17:58. So with that power play goal, it tied it up. And John Tortorella was just as excited and happy about that as you might think he would be. Columbus tried to answer, but the Hawks held to end that third period. So early in the overtime, the Hawks had their chances. They won that first faceoff, and they ragged the puck a lot. Columbus then took a penalty, which also appeared to make Tortorella kind of, look like Tortorella out there. The Hawks took a timeout at 2:08, and then there was a goal, or was there? Was the question. Was it a goal, or did the clock run out before Werenski's shot went in, and it went out? The green light was on before the shot went in. It had expired by about 0.3 of a second. So we go into the shootout. In the shootout, Taves and Kane with the goals. Act surprised that they were out there for the shootout. Chicago wins it in the shootout 3-2, where Columbus was like half a second away from winning it in overtime. Leonard saves 31 out of 33. Korpisalo saves 28 out of 30. And troubling is he got hurt on the shootout. Now, I haven't seen a report yet as to whether or not they've said anything regarding it or if he just tweaked something, but he did get hurt during the shootout. Your 3 stars are Kane, who didn't get a point, but he did get the shootout winner in this game. And your 2nd star is Gustafsson, and 3rd star, Riley Nash, who had the goal for Columbus as well. So power plays 1 for 5 for Chicago, 0 for 3 for Columbus. The shots were 9-4 Columbus in the first, 13-8 Columbus in the second, 11-8 Chicago in the third, and in the overtime 7-3 in favor of Chicago. Final shots 33-30 in favor of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'll get there. It's going to happen. Now, with this point, Columbus gets a little bit closer to their goal with 2 points. Chicago keeps their goal in sight, and they're catching up to some teams. Most notably, Edmonton's getting caught and passed right now by a good number of teams. So, all right, moving along. The Minnesota Wild at home against the New York Islanders. And the Wild played the Islanders game, and they almost beat them at it until the Islanders... This is an Islanders game. This is the first Islanders game I've seen them play in probably about 3 weeks. The shots favored the Islanders early. Then there was a glass replacement, which delayed the game and caused it to be about 5 minutes later than it should have been. Mayfield and Hartman then kind of played Twister. That's the only way I could describe it. They kind of tangled up with each other, and the referee's like, this is obnoxious. Both of you are out of here. So it was 4-on-4. The Wild bounced back at around the halfway mark, that they started playing well. Then Donato would score from Suter and Eriksson Ek at 15:43. So Donato keeps his relatively hot streak going. I think that's 2 games in a row he's had a goal now. The Wild got a power play. Then the Islanders got a power play with 1 minute and 6 seconds left. Neither team would score on that. Second period, Dubnyk was continuing his strong play. So when the Islanders got their shots, Dubnyk was able to stop them all. The Wild were trying to beat the Islanders at their own game, I felt. And they were doing quite well at it. Varlamov stopped Suter as the Wild were pressing for a goal. We go into the third period, still 1-0. And there were overlapping power play. There was an overlapping power play between the second and the third for the Wild. It just failed to produce anything. Dubnyk then denied Lee at 1.5 minutes. So Lee with a nice chance, and Dubnyk saved it really, really nicely. Fiala then missed a shot high on a break, and shortly after that, Barzal made no mistake. He would be credited with a goal that initially was given to Broussard. Broussard. Pulock and Pelech got the assists at 4:24. Martin would then score pretty quickly after that from Zizekas and Leddy at 6:01, and that made the crowd go quiet. Because a game that had been 1-0 since 15:43 the first, all of a sudden they're chasing the game. And I thought this was a really good mental test for the Wild. Because this is the kind of adversity that you're going to face against a team like the Islanders. The Wild ended up getting a power play. There was a late hit on Hartman that caused a scrum. Not late enough that I think Department of Player Safety needs to get involved, but late enough that other members of the Wild had to get in there and say, hey, don't be a prick. Both teams had some bruising hits in that third period, very physical third period. Kuhnhackl would score his first of the year from Nelson Zizekas at 17:29. I think my favorite part of that goal is his reaction, which was, I don't know, did I just score? Like, he just seemed to be as surprised as anybody in the crowd might be that Tom Kuhnhackl got a goal. So he scores, and it was a very Islanders-type game. low chance, low opportunity, and then all of a sudden they score some goals and they get the win. So the Islanders win at 3-1. Varlamov saved 25 out of 26, so they get the goaltending, they get the defense. Everything goes their way. Dubnyk saves 25 out of 28 in the loss. Your 3 stars are Martin, Varlamov, and Donato. Power plays 0 for 2 for the Islanders, 0 for 3 for Minnesota. The shots favored Minnesota in the first, 12-10. 10-5 Islanders in the second, 9-8 in favor of the Wild in the third. Final shots 28-26 in favor of the visitors, who won the game. And very, very good game overall. Slowish game. Keep in mind that when all these games are on at the same time, I will tend to go to the game that's got more opportunities and probably more goals. Because I know if I don't watch as much of this one, I'm probably not going to miss a lot of prime opportunities. But still, for the Islanders, they're getting back on track. So that being said, I need to change boards. And we're back with Boston and Buffalo. This is a rough one for Buffalo, isn't it? Now, as a Boston fan, I'm going to be honest, this was a game where it felt like Boston played a good 40 minutes, and they came out with the win. And this is 3 in a row, and it finally feels like Boston's got their mojo back. The shots were 4-0 Sabres, though, at 5 minutes, and at 7 minutes in, the Bruins still had no shots. They would only get 2 in the entire first period. Now, what frustrated Buffalo was Pastrnak would score from Marchand and Bergeron at 12:39, so even though they'd held Boston to 2 shots in the first period, they were behind 1-0 after that first period. And you know Boston's not going to be limited to 2 shots again in the third or the second. Early power play in that second period. Ullmark was holding when he was tested. Boston had 2 shots in the first, as I said. They had 3 shots in the first 2.5 minutes of the second period. Now, the funny thing is, while Boston, I felt, was the better team in that second period mostly, Ristolainen would score from Reinhart and Johansson at 6:37, tying it up. Ullmark then made a big save to keep it tied. The Bruins got a power play, didn't score on it. They got another, they didn't score on that one. But that power play would eventually wear down that penalty kill. And I know that there's probably some Sabre fans that are baffled by what happened in the third period, so we'll get to that. But I will say it was interesting to me that Buffalo was the better team in the first period and Boston scored the goal. I thought Boston was the better team in the second period. Buffalo scores the goal. And then in the third, both goalies are tested early. The Bruins got their 4th power play. They were 0 for 3 to that point. And then it got weird. Because then there were 2 guys in the penalty box. So it looked like it was a 5-on-3. It was Johan Larsson and it was Jake McCabe. And they showed the replay and you could have called a penalty on both. And then they apparently let McCabe out. And it was a 5-on-4 for 4 minutes. So 2 penalties on the same play to Larsson. And I thought, really? Because at first when they showed the power play had 4 minutes, I thought, well, that can't be right. And they showed Larsson for hooking and then Larsson for tripping. And I thought, well, which is it? It can't be both. It was both. And Boston, to their credit, they went, it's early in the third. If we take advantage of this, we can win this game. DeBrusk scores from Kampfer and Pastrnak at 2:37. That's a power play goal. And then 18 seconds later, DeBrusk scored from Krejci and Kampfer. So Kampfer gets his first 2 points of the year within 18 seconds of each other. DeBrusk gets 2 goals, and that was not a good goal, that second one. Almost impossible angle. He just bounced it in off of the arm of Ullmark. And it's just, there was very little net that was there, but it was a part of it. It shouldn't have been there. And again, it's 3-1. Ullmark played well. It's just that one play. And yeah, it's 3-1. But Lazar would score from Ristolainen and Eichel at 5:08. So that made it 3-2, and then the Sabres pushed. They got a crossbar at around 12.5 minutes into it. The Sabres then forced a Bruins penalty late, so they had their chance. They called a timeout at 2:27. So they called the timeout. They pulled the goalie. It made it a 6-on-4, and they were very frustrated with their inability to get enough shots, to get enough pressure, and eventually that frustration led to Reinhart slashing and breaking a stick in the Boston zone. And at 19:43, Reinhart's penalty basically ended the game. So Boston holds on and wins at 3-2. Ullmark saved 19 out of 22 in the loss. Rask saved 24 out of 26 in the win. Your 3 stars are DeBrusk, Pastrnak, and Ristolainen. Power plays, Buffalo goes 0 for 3. Boston went 2 for 6. Those 2, of course, were on that bizarre 4-minute power play off of the Larsson play. It was just weird. Shots were 7-2 in the first in favor of Buffalo, 12-11 Buffalo in the second, and then 9-7 in favor of the Boston Bruins in the third. Final shots 26-22. So again, great first period, great road period by Buffalo, and then Boston managed to come back. So good result for Boston, and for Buffalo, this has to be frustrating because with everything else that happened tonight, I'm pretty sure they're 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. And it has to kind of feel like things are getting away from them because teams that they needed to lose tonight didn't. And we're going to go ahead and jump into that with Tampa Bay at home against Detroit. This was a tough one. The Wings had the early edge in puck control. They did that last night as well in Florida. Power play for the Wings. Bernier stopped Killorn on a 2-on-1. Killorn's been hot. He didn't get on the board tonight. Tampa was improving. So Tampa got off to the slow start, and then as the first period wore on, they got better and better. It felt a lot like last night. But we're scoreless after one, which is not like last night. Second period, early puck control favored the Bolts, and they would make it work for them as Palat scores from Shattenkirk at 4:10. The Bolts got a power play. They wouldn't score on that one. They'd score on a power play later. But overall, this period, it felt like it was all Tampa until Fabry scores from Hronik and Athanasiou at 17:54. It was really all Tampa up until then. And Detroit ties it up. And that's kind of a uh-oh moment because, again, you're out playing a team badly, and yet after two periods, it's a tie game. Well, in the third period, Detroit was very, very nice to Tampa Bay. There was an early power play for the Bolts. They then got another one. So Detroit keeps throwing them power plays. Come on, you can do this. And Point would do it from Hedman and Stamkos at 5:33. That made it 2-1 for Tampa. The Wings just weren't getting enough shots. Bernier was the story. The only reason this game is close is because of Jonathan Bernier, who is a very underrated goaltender right now in the National Hockey League. The Wings had a 3-on-2 that was broken up quite nicely by Tampa Bay. There was a big save on Palat with 1 minute and 45 seconds left. They pulled the goalie with 1 minute and 15 left. Could not generate the needed opportunity for that tying goal. McElhinney played very, very well when challenged. Bernier saves 37 out of 39 in the 2-1 loss. McElhinney saves 19 out of 20. Your 3 stars are Point, Bernier, and McElhinney. So there you go. Tampa wins the game. Power plays 0 for 2 for Detroit. 1 for 4 for Tampa. Shots favored the Lightning in every period. 13-9 in the first, 14-5 in the second, 12-6 in the third. Final shots 39-20 in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it was a pretty, relatively, when you're talking about victories, this was a relatively easy victory for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it's just another one of those losses for Detroit, who haven't been mathematically alive for the playoffs since, I think it's late August that they were mathematically eliminated. I think they've been so bad that you have to add more time. Anyways, you get into negatives and the matrix and all this. It's been bad. And for Tampa, looks like they could end up being in the playoffs after all. Tampa's getting better. Toronto's getting better. Florida's getting better. So, who's going to fade? We're going to move on to the next game. Who's going to fade? Hey, look, it's the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal in against Florida. Montreal can't play this way. The announcer said it during the game tonight, and I agreed out loud. You can't play this way. They don't have the amount of top-end talent to play an 80s style of hockey game and allow this many opportunities. Even though they generated plenty of their own, they just can't play this way. They experienced the comeback last night by Tampa, and tonight they go through something similar against the Florida Panthers. And if you're Claude Julien, you have to be very frustrated right now. Achari scores from Connolly and Matheson at 4:34, so Noel Achari gets on the board for the first time this week. Vetrano then missed an open net. It's something he does. I love Frankie Vetrano, but he did miss an empty net. Barkov scores from Huberdeau at 6:33. The Panthers got a power play. They wouldn't score on it. Montreal gets a power play. They score on theirs. Tatar from Petrie and Suzuki at 13:31. That Nick Suzuki is a pretty darn good offensive player. Just going to throw that out there. Very good passer. Decent enough hands, and once he really gets acclimated to the NHL and once his confidence is high, he could score a ton of points. The Panthers got a power play. The Habs took another penalty late. Now, in defense of the Habs, they didn't allow a power play goal tonight, so that worked in their favor, and they were only down 2-1 after the first period. Second period, the Habs got an early power play, which turned into a 4-on-4. And hey, during that 4-on-4, first is Petrie from Suzuki at 120, then it's Domi from Kulak and Suzuki at 212. And on both goals, 4-on-4, no defensive pressure by the Panthers at all. Just backing off, take your shot, go ahead, we'll just sit back here and watch. Absolutely befuddling and bewildering because Domi now is on a 5-game goal streak, and Florida absolutely aided him to get there. The Panthers then pushed for the tie. Barkov would score from Huberdeau and Dadonov at 3:41, and I just wrote with the question mark the word defense because there wasn't any. There really wasn't any at either end of the rink. So Montreal gets that lead, and they blew it immediately. And defense was questionable. The Habs hit the post. Suzuki really wanted a goal. However, it would go the other way. Huberdeau from Dadonov and Matheson at 13:30, and then 35 seconds later, Huberdeau adds another one from Barkov and Stralman at 14:05. It's one of those things where I'm flipping around between channels, and the app reports something to me, and I go, "No, that's the other goal. This is wrong." And I go back to that game, and I go, "Yeah, no, that's a goal." So Huberdeau with 2 goals in 35 seconds, I should say, not 15. It felt like 15, and that made it a pretty hefty lead for them at that point. Third period, Matheson would score 45 seconds into it. Remember what I talked about this morning about goals in certain points of the period? For Montreal, that continues to be a problem. So Matheson gets a goal that made it 6-3. Kotkaniemi would score on the power play from Domi and Wheel at 4:11 to make it 6-3, or 6-4, I should say. They pull the goalie with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Shea Weber would score from Petrie and Tatar at 18:08. They pull Price out again right away after. They called a timeout at 19:03. And with 13.6 seconds left, Suzuki had a really good chance that Bobrovsky denied. 6-5 win for Florida. For Montreal, they sink a little bit further out of the playoffs with that result tonight. So, Price saves 28 out of 34. His numbers have started to sink again. Bobrovsky, 38 saves on 43 shots. 3 stars are Huberdeau, Barkov, and Petrie. Power plays 2 for 4 for Montreal. 0 for 5 for Florida. Shots 10-9 in favor of Montreal in the first. 15-12 Montreal in the second. 18-13 Montreal in the third. Final shots 43-34 in favor of the Habs, who lose the game 6-5. And it's another one of those games where I don't know what to say about Montreal at this point other than they can't play this way. This is not a winning formula in this day and age. You can't do this. This is not going to work. So we'll see what they do next game to fix that because, you just can't. You can't play that way. It doesn't work. All right, next up. Dallas. I don't know what happened here. It's like there was a game in the first period and then Arizona went, well, that was pretty good. And they stopped. So first period, the shots were 2-1 Coyotes at 5 minutes. It was kind of one of those slow back and forth. We'll wait and make them make the first mistake. And Dallas did make the first mistake. It's Taylor Hall scoring from Garland Dvorak at 8:42. That's Hall's second goal as a member of the Arizona Coyotes. This is his 6th game as a member of the Coyotes. And it's a big start. The Stars got a power play, but the shots were 11-1 for the Coyotes at the time they got that power play. Very lopsided shot, 16-4 at 15 minutes because Dallas's power play sucks. The Coyotes got a power play, and it sucked as well. The Janmark then had a knee-on-knee incident with Hall. It wasn't one of those vicious knee-on-knee incidents. It's one of those accidentals where you're going by and you get clipped and totally accidental. One of those ones where either player could have been hurt on the play, but Janmark, because of the angle of it, got hurt. And he left the game. So there was some concern he would come back later. Garland scores from Schmaltz and Soderberg at 18:02. It was not a good angle. That was a bad angle goal on Hudobin. So Garland gets his 13th of the year, and then the Coyotes got a last-minute power play. And it felt like, okay, so thanks for coming out, Dallas. Second period starts with the Dallas Stars down 2-0. Coyotes get an early power play. This was shortly before Janmark came back. Alexiak had a breakaway that was denied. So, don't often see that in a game. I don't care if he's coming out of the penalty box or not. You don't often see that. And I thought it was anemic offense by the Stars. This was just not great offense by Dallas to that point in the game. They pushed it 15-30, and Raanta was holding it together. So, when they did have their breakdowns in the Arizona zone, their goaltender was fantastic. The Stars' power play sucks. So they had a chance before the end of the second period. I'm like, yeah, that sucks. Third period, Ben had an early shot that missed high, and then he didn't miss the next one. He scores from Sagan and Lundell at 2:18, and then it's beast mode Jamie Benn that we see from then on for the rest of the game. Which, as a Dallas fan, I'm like, hey, there's Jamie Benn. There's one of my favorite players in the NHL. And then there's another part of me that goes, where have you been? We've needed you. So, the Stars got a power play. They needed it not to suck, but it did. Ranta made a save with his mask, called for the trainer. He would stay in the game, but I think it caught him on the neck guard, and the net drove the neck guard back into his neck or into his windpipe. And so he was okay. Richardson then just missed a prime chance. He had a great chance that would have gone in last year, didn't go in this year. Radulov would score from Sekera and Jamie Benn at 10:46, so that ties it up. And I, at that point, thought, well, it looks like Dallas is going to win it. I mean, you don't say it out loud. You don't want to jinx them, even though nobody can hear you. You're watching TV by yourself. You don't want to say, all right, we're going to win this, because then when they don't, then you go, oh, I did it. It's me. Somebody's got a microphone somewhere, and it's me. It's my fault. The Coyotes were struggling to counter everything the Stars threw at them, and I thought this was Ben's best game in a while. I want to say all year, but probably not on the season. It just feels like it's been a while since we saw this beast mode Jamie Benn. Rope Hintz would then score from Gurianov and Klingberg at 15:51, and I thought Tyson Nash had it right when he said it was a nothing play. It looked like a nothing play. Gurianov passes it out in front. The funny thing is, if Pavelski had got it, and I think that was the intention of that pass, Pavelski would have taken a shot that Ranta would have saved. Because Pavelski misses it, it goes further off to the other side, and Hintz is there. Hintz has a wide open net. So it's weird how it's kind of a broken play, and yet it ends up in the back of the net. So Rope Hintz gets his team-leading 13th goal. They pull the goalie with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, and then Janmark gets the empty netter at 18:24. That was after a Dickinson shot block that left him completely hobbled on the play. And you could see all of his teammates congratulating him while he's like doubled over and clearly in pain. They're like, yeah, way to go, buddy. So, nice shot block by Dickinson and nice empty netter by Janmark. There was a scrum then with about 10.6 seconds left. I don't get the feeling like by the end of this game these teams liked each other at all. I'm starting to think that sometimes in hockey teams don't like each other at the end of the game. Hudobin saved 33 out of 35 in the shocking Dallas winner. Ranta saves 21 out of 24 in the loss. Hintz, Garland, and Benn are your 3 stars. Jamie Benn came out to play today. This is why I get frustrated when he's invisible. Because when he's on like this, it is magic. 0 for 3 was Dallas's power play. 0 for 4 was Arizona's. So 0 for 7 combined. Shots were 22-5 in the first period for Arizona. 8 shots each in the second, and then in the third, 12-5 for Dallas. They really woke up in the third, and Arizona just didn't have an answer. Final shots, 35-25 in favor of the Arizona Coyotes, who are going to come out of tonight scratching their heads, as they are not first place in their division. They're also not second in their division coming out of this game tonight because of something I'm going to tell you about in a minute here. Yep, today's a rarity. All 3 teams that I cheer for won today. It's a rarity. I should have played the lotto, shouldn't I? But before we get to that, Philadelphia played Anaheim. This game was tedious. I'm not going to lie. I could lie and say, oh, it was a great defensive struggle. And I guess if you're a fan of Anaheim or Philly, you may have really enjoyed the game, especially if you're a fan of Philly. Especially after the game Philly had last night against San Jose. This is a nice bounce back, but man, was this was a tough one. Goodbranson scores from Henrique at 35 seconds. At that point, it would appear that the offense of the Anaheim Ducks said, all right, so we're done for the night, right? Yeah, that's it. Goodbranson, the only goal? Yeah, that sounds about right. The Flyers got a power play. The Ducks drew a call with about 50 seconds left in that power play. And then around the halfway mark, Couturier scores from Voracek and Giroux at 9:45. That line was together in this game and played pretty darn well. And yeah, so it's 1-1 at 9:45. And the shots and the score were even. The Flyers and the Ducks were exchanging chances. There was a late Ducks power play. Coming out of that first period, it was actually a pretty entertaining game. Second period, the shots are 4-0 Flyers at 5 minutes, and the Ducks just weren't generating enough chances. They just weren't. 8-0 were the shots at 7.5 minutes. Jones took a puck in the face. He went for repairs after that. He'd stay in the game, but just one of those incidents where a guy takes a puck. It looked like it hit him in the cheek or in the face, so it might have knocked a tooth out or whatever. Late power play for the Flyers. And the Ducks are 14-5-1 when they're outshot. Isn't that a weird stat coming into tonight? They're 14-5-1 if they don't get more shots than the opposition. That's one of those stats that you can just say, that doesn't make any sense at all. Now, in the third period, the Ducks had a 5-on-3 for more than a minute. Nothing. They got nothing out of it. Philadelphia killed it very, very well. The game looked to be headed for a 1-1 overtime game, and I was right. It was evenly played. Both goalies were pretty solid in this one, and it felt like, yeah, this is going to go to overtime. About halfway through the period, I was like, all right, so we're not going to get any more scoring, are we? Nah. In overtime, there was early control by the Flyers. The Ducks needed to change players. They got hemmed in their own zone. They would make that change. Konechny was denied by Gibson, but not long thereafter. Hayes with a home run pass from Voracek. Some poor defending by Anaheim. And at 3:53 of overtime, the Philadelphia Flyers win it 2-1 on the strength of the Hayes goal. So Philadelphia bounces back with a win tonight after the loss last night. They've now won 5 out of 6. Anaheim comes up with another loss. 27 saves on 28 shots for Elliott. Gibson saves 33 out of 35. Gibson played very, very well. Your 3 stars are Hayes, Gibson, and Giroux. Power plays 0 for 2 for Philly, 0 for 4 for Anaheim. Shots 9-8 for Philly in the first, 14-5 Philly in the second, 13-8 for Anaheim in the third. And in overtime, the shots were 4-2 for Philadelphia. Final shots 35-28 in favor of the Flyers. Your real turning point, though, is when the Ducks couldn't score 5-on-3. That's where they lost the game right there. I know it took till overtime and late in overtime, but that 5-on-3, that was their chance. And it just didn't happen. So, last game of the night, Vancouver. This might be the most impressive game I've seen Vancouver play this year. I know there have been some bigger wins, but this was against a division rival that was 1 point ahead of them. They knew that Arizona had already lost tonight. So with one game in hand on Arizona coming out of tonight, the Vancouver Canucks right now are second in the Pacific Division. Snuck up on you out of nowhere, snuck into a playoff spot last night, and tonight they're second in the Pacific Division. So let's talk about how we get there. The Canucks got a power play early, and guess who scored? Tyler Myers from Virtanen and Gaudette at 3:29. That second unit on the power play is fantastic. I'm not sure why the first unit wants to pass all the time. They need to take some notes from the second unit. And then Myers scores from Besser and Hughes at 6:40. That was one of the worst goals I've seen scored this year. And it reminded me of Koskinen's goal from center ice against Dougie Hamilton. That Myers goal should not go in on a National Hockey League goaltender, and Riddick hung his head a little bit after that one. Demko was sharp shortly after that when he was tested. The Flames had some pressure on the halfway mark. The Canucks got another power play. Virtanen ended up getting post. He'd make up for that, though. He would score a goal shortly after that post. And check out the assists. Myers and Pearson at 10:52. So, yeah, Pearson, who had a pretty good night. Myers had a pretty good night. 2 goals and an assist in the first period. He wouldn't get a hat trick, which was too bad because Hallward and Babbage are the other 2 defensemen of the Canucks who've had hat tricks. Would have been nice to see Myers. That would be such a bizarre trio. Babbage, Hallward, and Myers. That's an answer to a trivia question nobody's going to get. Although I remember the Hallward hat trick because that was when I first started watching the Canucks, and I remember at that point thinking Hallward was fantastic. He was a good defenseman. He's not fantastic, but anyway, I thought he was because he got the hat trick. Anyways, Riddick was out after that Virtanen goal, and Talbot went in. Miller got a crossbar shortly thereafter. Talbot then denied Besser. Besser had a great shot. The Flames got a late power play. Notice Besser did get an assist tonight, so he continues his hot streak, even though it's not goals. And, so after the first period, it's 3-0 Vancouver. And most Canuck fans were either cheering or saying, what's going on here? So second period, the Flames had a 4-on-1, and they missed it. I don't know how you miss on a 4-on-1. I saw that and I thought, oh, it's the 3-on-0 with St. Louis early in the year. That's what we're looking at. And then it just missed. The Canucks got a power play. They wouldn't score on it. The Canucks power play after the 2 goals in the first, it was fruitless for them. Talbot stopped Virtanen. Talbot was a big part of the reason that power play didn't score again. The Canucks got another power play. Demko robbed Ryan at the other end of the ice. Flames got another power play, and then what I really laugh at, this was my favorite moment of the night. I know, they win it big, right? So there's a scrum around the net, and Lucic is having a bit of a tussle with Schaller, and Schaller yells at him, relax. Just relax. To Lucic. And I thought, that needs to be the story of Milan Lucic's career. All capital letters with exclamation marks, just relax, by Milan Lucic. And it could be all about every time he's lost his temper on the ice. That'd be quite the book, wouldn't it? So I thought that was really funny. So we end up with 4-on-4 play coming out of it. During that 4-on-4, Rasmus Andersson would score from Monahan and Tkachuk at 18:36. Again, Tim Schaller yelling relax at him. I love Schaller, and I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people who don't like Tim Schaller, but I do. I like him a lot. I've liked him since he was a Bruin. So 3-1 after 2, third period. The Canucks started strong. The Flames did answer, and then kind of against the flow of the play, Pearson scores from Horvat and Eriksson at 6:14. Yes, Louis Eriksson gets on the board with an assist. And he's getting a lot of ice time. And he's getting a shockingly high amount of ice time, that Louis Eriksson. And yet it appears that the offense is slowly on the way. And he had some good looks tonight. He just doesn't have any confidence in his shot right now. So he did get a couple of shots in that third period. We'll see if his offense does eventually show up on any level. But he did get a helper. Flames got a power play around the halfway mark. They wouldn't score on it. And the game was pretty physical, and it's pretty obvious by the end of this game these teams don't like each other, which they never do. Calgary, Vancouver, very often a very ugly feud and rivalry, and right now, because of the fact they're fighting over a playoff spot with one another, it's getting ugly. Hanifin would score from Lindholm and Tkachuk at 19:02. Immediately after, Hanifin went to the other end to talk to Talbot about when he was going to come out. They would pull the goaltender with 37 seconds left, which meant Pearson gets an empty netter from Horvat and Edler at 19:35. Now, the interesting thing is, Edler gets the second assist. He had just been eviscerated verbally by Garrett and Shorthouse for the fact that he passed a puck right up the middle when they were protecting the lead late. And yet that puck would go to Horvat, which goes to Pearson, no harm, no foul, and it's in the net. And it's a 5-2 win for the Vancouver Canucks. But yeah, when Edler put that up the middle, I also may not have been all that happy with Edler for putting it up the middle. Just going to say. Demko saves 23 out of 25. It is nice to know that Demko is back and that he's good, and he looked pretty darn good tonight. Riddick saved 4 out of 7 before Talbot went in. Talbot saved 19 out of 20. So Talbot's the better goaltender, but Riddick has the better record. It seems like Calgary plays better in front of Riddick than they play in front of Talbot. I don't know. There's an interesting issue going on there with the Flames. 3 stars are Myers, Anderson, and Virtanen. And your power plays, Vancouver 2 for 5, Calgary 0 for 4. Shots 11-9 Vancouver in the first, 9-8 in favor of Calgary in the second, and in the third, Vancouver did shut them down kind of nicely, 9-7 in their favor. Final shots 28-25 for Vancouver. Great road game. Really, really good road game. A complete game played. And the Anderson goal was on a rebound that maybe Demko should have had. And they did allow that goal in the last minute to make it closer than it should have been, but that'd just be quibbling with details. Compared to that win over LA, this is so much better of a win, and they're done with 2019. Next time we see them will be on Thursday. So they get a nice rest here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with them from here, because right now they're second in the division. They are ahead of Arizona because they've played one less game. And they're a point ahead of Calgary. So, yeah, I'm absolutely floored by where things are at right now. And this is 5 wins in a row, and we'll see if they can continue it past here. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.